Welcome to the first webinar of the 2026 that's sponsored by the Alaska Tribal Technical Assistance Program, funded by FHWA, the Office of OTT. The focus of our webinar series is transportation-related topics, and today we are hearing from Nikki Navio of the Denali Commission, specifically a presentation on building connections, how the Denali Commission supports rural Alaska transportation. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Nikki to introduce herself and the others from the Denali Commission who are here with her.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Vicki. Let me make sure I have my video turned on so everyone can see me. Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join this webinar to introduce the commission. And I'm excited to share some of our exciting opportunities that we have going on as of recently and what might be upcoming. Before I jump right in, I do want to introduce two of my colleagues who are also in this call that also support transportation, but also many of our other programs at the commission. So I'm going to hand it off to Christian and then Claire to introduce themselves.
Thanks, Nikki. Hi guys, can you hear me? Been having IT issues this morning.
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Like Nikki said, my name is Christian Diamond. I'm the grants administrator for the commission. I oversee all of the grants for all of our programs. And yeah, thank you guys so much for having us here today.
And hi everyone, my name is Claire Baldwin. I'm a program specialist at the Commission, so I support Christian with our grants management and then all of our program managers like Nikki across all of our program areas at the Commission.
Thanks, Claire. So yeah, Christian and Claire are also a resource if for whatever reason you may not be able to get a hold of me or want to make sure that you have are aware of them as potential resources here for the Denali Commission transportation program. With that said, yeah, I'm Nikki Navio. I have been with the commission for the last 2.5 years, managing the transportation program here. I came from, prior to that, I worked for a regional planning organization and also did consulting prior. My background is in city and transportation planning. So I am a planner by trade, but it's been really great to be in this role where we can see constructed and constructible projects come to fruition. With that said, let me just jump right into our presentation here. You may all be familiar with the commission, but just as an overview, the Denali Commission is an independent federal regional commission. There are several regional commissions across the country that work with multiple states and may be funded both on a federal basis as well as a consortium of states. Our mission here at the Commission is to promote economic development with a focus on critical infrastructure and workforce training for rural communities in Alaska. We do this through a variety of special tools and mechanisms. One I'd like to highlight is our transfer and gift authority. We have ability to accept funds from both non-federal sources as well as federal sources. And when it does come to the commission, it does have that statutory flexibility. Our funds can also be used as non-federal cost share match. So it has ability to match funds similar to the Tribal Transportation Program funds with other federal agency funds if you're applying for competitive programs. And then our funds, like I said earlier, it doesn't expire. So, in some cases, it can be held for a period of time. Other agencies can transfer those funds, so we may be able to, bank it over a certain period of time or deliver them through a variety of different programs. Wanted to highlight some recent milestones here at the commission. Just in the last month, we finally have the budget approved. So that budget included our 18 million in base appropriations for the Denali Commission as a whole. So this is, for all our programs, not just for transportation. And then we also were appropriated $20 million as approved in PL 1975, 15 million for our surface program and 5 million for our waterfront program. And you can actually look up where those funds are going to be applied through or applied to in our work plan, which is publicly available, and it's actually available for comment on the Federal Register now that we have been appropriated these funds. So for our transportation program, this is really anything that is transportation and transportation adjacent. So, your typical, facilities as well as, any sort of intermodal connections. I do also want to highlight, we have a fairly lean staff. We have about a dozen staff members at the moment and have lost some due to retirement and other, early opportunities from this past year. So we did just get approved to hire some additional staff by OPM, and more to come on those opportunities, including 2 program managers that will manage the Village Infrastructure Protection Program as well as the NRCS Natural Resources program funds. For the Denali Commission Transportation Program, it's been around for about 20 years. Since the program's inception, we've funded over 300 projects since 2006 and served almost every community around the state. This has equated to about $193 million in commission investments, which has leveraged or matched over $700 million in other federal funds. And then I wanted to highlight the 2 funding opportunities or 2 items there in the bottom, what we funded in the last few years. Our funding has waxed and waned, but really in the last few years with with IJA and having those appropriations on an annual basis, we've been able to grow our program and have about 95 projects funded within the last 5 years of it, with 80 million funds programmed. So most of these opportunities come through competitive funding opportunities. That's primarily the way that the transportation program has put out the calls for projects. Then these projects are evaluated by our Transportation Advisory Committee, also known as the TAC. Members of the TAC are actually put in place through the governor's boards and commissions office, and then they serve as that body that helps provide direction for the transportation program at the commission, and we meet with them on a quarterly basis to provide updates on what has been going on with the program and what's the latest on the projects. Once those projects are evaluated and recommended through this body, our federal co-chair ultimately has the final approval for those projects. And most of our projects, you can kind of see the distribution of this project, location-specific projects on the right, although it may not actually show all our program projects, because there's many that are regional in nature, or go to entities that provide support on a statewide basis. But we do try, the projects are focused in communities primarily that are identified through the Distress Communities Report and then the 2019 statewide threat assessment that the commission had funded, which right now is actually, if you're not aware, is undergoing an update. So I'm happy to provide more information in that. Our focus really has been to maintain infrastructure, improving the health and safety and connectivity. So repairing and getting projects to a state of good repair has been the focus of our program. There's two program areas. So we have a waterfront program, which is really focused on, small dock facility replacements, components to, small harbor replacements, upland facilities and barge landings. And then we also have a surface transportation program, which is, generally anything that's on roads. We take on as part of this portfolio. So boardwalks to board roads, trail markings, transit, capital improvements, have come through this program, and pedestrian facilities, et cetera. So a pretty broad authority in terms of what kind of projects can come through the commission's funding opportunities. And then I wanted to highlight a few of our recent partnerships and initiatives. One recently is working with the Alaska Tribal Administrators Association and the Alaska Tribal Transportation Work Group for the 2026 Transportation Symposium to get more tribes to participate in that upcoming meeting that will be in March 24th to 26th. And we're sponsoring representation from at least 10 to 12 tribes to travel that haven't necessarily participated in that symposium. Another partnership that we have been, looking at recently collaborated on is the National Guard's Innovative Readiness Training Program. This is a training program where you may have Guard members, support projects, and it can be used as a training exercise for them. And may come with, nominal cost for the community that might be delivering, let's say a road project, and they may need some support on clearing for this project. So those are two. And then I do want to highlight, recent partnership with TCC on supporting some dust control and demonstration, getting interior communities together, their representatives, to look at some dust control in Tanana. And then we also partner with DOT and the Alaska Municipal League, not just on specific, match for small projects, but also, some of the new guidance that they're working on with the Board Roads Guide, as well as the, Alaska Connectivity, Community Connectivity Action Plan, and their safety action plans. We provide some support on those different initiatives. Do want to highlight that we also work with, a variety of regional ARDers across the state, as well as, tribal nonprofit consortiums. So on to probably what you guys are most interested in, and I will try to, I want to dedicate most of this time as a question and answer for the program today. So if you are not aware, we do have an open call for projects. We have our 2026 statements of interest for our rural match and gap program. There's $5 million available for this program. It's a match and gap funding assistance, so you can request up to $1 million for the program or up to 30% of your total project cost. So if, let's say, you have a project that is $100,000, and you may need, a component of it, some gap funding, you can request an additional $30,000. The project has to be construction ready, so we like to see projects that have documented, planning complete, you have the NEPA near completion, have bid ready documents, or can demonstrate that in some manner, and then demonstrate the need for that gap funding with those other program funds that may be committed. We'd like to see, there's no requirement that you have to have your other funding source secured, but we do try to prioritize those that do have other funding um, uh, in agreement and secured. But just letting us know if you've applied or received some other funds that require a local match. And eligible entities are, municipal, borough, tribal governments, basically any entity that is not a for-profit organization is eligible for this program. Oh, and then the item on the right here, as you can see, this is a QR code. You can access our statement of interest. It's not very long. It's only, 4 pages on our website, which describes all of this information and the application itself. So that is due on this Friday, the 13th. As I've mentioned, the, eligibility of the projects really have to fall in these 2 buckets, surface transportation or waterfront improvements. And it can be a variety of these items, whether it's, board roads, seasonal roads. We like to see projects that are, safety enhancements or any sort of components that might support rural port and harbor facilities. So if you do so the statement of interest is due this Friday, and we will be reviewing that. I guess I'll jump ahead here. The statement of interest is closing this Friday. End of February, those will be reviewed for a threshold review. And what that threshold review essentially entails is making sure that your project is aligning with these basic items. So it's making sure that it's actually eligible for the program itself. If you are eligible for the program, then you'd be invited to apply. And then I want to highlight here what, how the scoring is for that invitation to apply. If you do get selected for the review, most 10 points of the scoring is, focused on distressed communities. Proposed projects that benefit distressed communities and disadvantaged communities do have a preferential score. You can find that distressed communities update or list, and I can actually drop a link of that in here, and based off of the most recent score or report. We also base it off of the statewide threat assessment grouping from that 2019 report. And then, of course, the community background, the completeness of your project purpose, need, impact, the scope and schedule of your project, and your organization, as well as the delivery method as well, and partnerships. So pretty standard for those other areas. But just so you have an idea of how those are evaluated. And the way that the projects are evaluated, it's evaluated by our Transportation Advisory Committee, as I mentioned earlier on. So they do look at those projects that meet pass or go past that threshold review and meet this invitation to apply and have the applications pulled together on this. So let me jump right on here just to get you guys a time frame for what is anticipated. Like I said, late March, early end of February, you should know whether or not the statement of interest that you submit you will be invited to apply for the next round of the program, which is the full application. And then that will go out end of February, but late March is you will have 30 days to respond to that application. And late March, early April, depending on when that notification goes out, is when the applications will be due. So we'll have 1 month from when they're due till early May when the review committee looks at the projects. The federal co-chair designates their commitments, and then the notifications letters will go out to those entities that were invited to review, and then we'll go through the process of getting an award agreement in place. So this is just a general time frame for what to expect if you are interested in applying, and what would line up with your projects. It's spring 2026 now, so we have our call for applications during this period, and by May we should know. You should know if you've been invited to apply, what the status of your grant award will be. Summer and fall 2026 will be focused on getting those award agreements and contracts in place for approvals for a notice of award. And then depending on how quickly we can go through that process, it would be for fall to spring 2027 that you can use those funds, for construction in 2027. And also, any sort of procurement you might have for your project. So that's all I have for today's discussion. I do want to, I guess I'll stop sharing my screen maybe, and see if we can have a discussion on any questions folks may have about the program and the funding, anything else with the statement of interest. Or maybe I can leave it up in case it's helpful.
Yeah, I would leave it up. There's a question posted is, can we apply if there is a funding gap greater than 30% of the project?
You can, but it would have to be, your request has to be 30% or less.
Okay, so that the percentage you're asking for in the grant application has to be 30% or less, even if there's greater funding gaps.
Yes.
Okay. All right, people, anybody, you can post your questions in the Q&A or the chat. If you want to speak, you're welcome to raise your hand and ask your question verbally. I can hit the allow to talk button in response to a raised hand. Okay, there we go. All right, Zochi, you are
Can you hear me?
allowed. Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Well, hello, everyone. And thank you for that excellent presentation, Nikki. And I just wanted to speak up because our two programs are very complementary. I'm Sochi Castaneda with the Maritime Administration, and we offer the Port Infrastructure Development Program grant that's very popular and very successful in Alaska. And so I would just encourage folks to look at coupling our two grants together. It makes a lot of sense. And I'll also put my contact information in the chat. I'll give you guys a quick update about our program. The Port Infrastructure Development Program has a short notice of funding opportunity out right now, and it's just a placeholder. The deadline, I believe, is February 28th, but that is not going to be the actual deadline. We're going to publish a full notice of funding opportunity, and when that's done, we will change the deadline. We're statutorily required to do that, and the new deadline would either be in late April or early May. you could expect to see that sometime in the next 2 weeks. We're telling people late February at some point. And yeah, it's a little bit complicated to get this program out to folks, but we're committed to doing so and happy to answer any questions that people may have. Over.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Sochi, for highlighting the PIDP program, because that is one of the programs that we really try to, especially with the Waterfront, Denali Commission's Waterfront Program, try to support communities on in seeking some of those match and gap funds. I think there isn't a match requirement, but there, oftentimes we see with construction projects, there's a gap. Is that correct, Sochi, with the more recent calls? There's no match requirement for rural communities.
That's correct. There is no match requirement, but some communities still have a match. And so they are required to meet that if they were given a match, but also because of inflation, a lot of projects were estimated to be lower, and their costs have gone up significantly, and in some cases could be more than 30%, as you indicated. So even if they got 100% funding with no match, the expectation from our program would be that in order to basically execute the grant agreement, the community would have to, we're going to commit up to whatever the grant amount was. And if there's a gap, the community would have to cover it. So what you're talking about here is a good way to potentially cover that gap. Or if the gap is even larger than this 30%, then it could at least cover 30% of the gap, and you could look elsewhere for other funding. But yeah, so that's basically how it works. Did I answer your question, Nikki?
Yes, yeah. Thank you so much. I wanted to make
Okay.
sure that folks were aware of that.
All right, so posted in the Q&A section, we have a number of questions. First up is, are projects contracted with construction contracts as bid ready or community constructed, which use what in the past was known as force account?
Yes, I think projects constructed with construction contracts, yeah, any sort of force account that is eligible for our program. You just have to demonstrate that you've completed the NEPA, the design, any sort of surveying for your project that make it necessary for it to be completed, hopefully by summer 2027, since that's when these funds will likely be available.
Okay. Next question. If we do not have any construction funding and have not applied for federal funding but plan to apply, can we list the programs we plan to apply for, and will we be eligible?
Yes, you can list the programs that you are applying for that you don't have the funding currently. One thing I will note is that when we do the threshold review, depending on how many applications we get, we will be prioritizing projects, though, that do have funding secured to be invited to apply. That said, I want folks to be aware of this program because, as I mentioned early on in the presentation, we just got the approval for FY26 funds appropriated to us. So we're hoping that this isn't going to be the only statement of interest that we will be putting out. There might be some opportunity to do another one later this year. So your funding picture can change, and it's helpful regardless or not you have the funding secured to apply for the statement of interest to let us know.
Okay. Next question. Do the Denali Commission personnel manage the construction?
No, so the way that our funds operate is that our funds operate as federal award agreements. So they are essentially grants that meet, 2 CFR 200 uniform guidance. So those the entity that has to apply for the program, any of these entities that are eligible, would be the ones that would be managing the construction of the project. So we essentially give you the funds to manage the project or contract that out.
All right. And then another question. If design is currently in progress but almost done, when does the project need to be shovel ready by to be able to apply this year?
That is a good question. It's hard to know. I guess it kind of depends on the nature of the project. I would say if you have not applied for this program, I think the intent of this program is that you have either applied or have received funding from other federal funds that require a local match, or you may have a gap in your funding source. So I would say that in this case, if you have intent to apply to a program, I would consider applying, but it would be helpful and it's critical for you to have that primary funding source identified in order to apply for the statement of interest.
All right. And then I think this is somewhat of a follow-up along those lines. Would you encourage people who are not quite sure if they are eligible to apply anyway?
Yes, I think it's always good to reach out to us if you have any questions. I will make sure to put my contact information in the chat. If you're not sure you're eligible for the program, we can discuss and help direct any questions and help you from there.
All right. And there was a question about if someone asked in the chat, how can we get our community involved in the TCC partnership project on dust control training and demonstration? The village of Husia has immense dust problems and would appreciate any help. Manoli responded that from TCC that they can reach out to TTC. Do you have any comments on that as answers to that as well?
No, I thank you so much, Manoli, for putting in your contact information, and Manoli would be the right point of contact for that partnership project.
All right. So that's every question that I'm aware of. Anyone else have additional questions for Nikki and the others from the Denali Commission? Going once?
Yeah, I have a
Going.
couple of things to add, just so
Okay.
everybody's aware. Please note that, like Nikki said, the due date for the statement of interest is due this Friday by 5 p.m. So, just want to make sure folks are aware. We'd hate for you guys to submit and then you go past that time. And also for other funding opportunities, please check our website under funding requests. We have a handful of programs. Please check our website periodically. There might be something that'll fit your need there. Whatever we post on our website will also be available at grants.gov. So that's another resource. But yeah, thank you guys so much.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming and attending this webinar. There's another one. And a question for the Denali Commission, do you push out emails on funding opportunities?
We sometimes do. I have the listserv for, our active grantees, but we primarily work through, our partners like the Alaska T-TAP to get the word out, and as well as other, programs and partners. So we don't have a listserv like that is Denali Commission wide, unfortunately. I would say the best resource is probably checking our program website periodically. We do announce it through, Alaska Municipal League, our partners at the governor's office of infrastructure, and others that will do an announcement. And I am actually going to send out a announcement here, just with our active programs funds, just to let folks know that it is going to be due this Friday on the 13th at 5 o'clock.
All right, a follow-up to that, are all Denali Commission funding opportunities listed in grants.gov?
Christian, you may be better able to answer that, but I think it's a yes.
Yep.
Okay. So I would encourage everyone, we did a webinar a couple of years ago on grants.gov, and it demonstrated how to use it, but it's also a very good resource for anyone just looking at federal grant opportunities in general, and is worth looking at. Another question is, will you be at the Tribal Transportation Symposium if we want to talk with you about anything?
Yes, I will be participating at the Tribal Transportation Symposium. I also dropped my, email and phone number in the chat, since, it's a ways off. And if you want to chat about any of your projects, I'm happy to be a resource and to, connect anytime.
And just as a thing, Billy, Connor, and I will also be at the ATTWG meeting the end of March representing the Alaska T-TAP, and we'd be happy to talk to people about anything as well. All right. Any other questions coming up? All right, going once, going twice. All right, well, thank everyone for attending. I'm going to stop recording.